What's up YouTube? Today we are looking at UVI's 8-bit synth. It's a kind of retro chiptune style synth with a couple of cool features built in. I believe it's based around multi-samples and that kind of thing. But the cool thing is, like the previous video I did on the PX memories, it does work with UVI's Workstation, which is their free player. So you don't necessarily need Falcon like I'm going to show you in the video. But you can use it as a kind of standalone instrument. And not only does it have really cool presets built in, but they give you these kind of like init patches, and the synth itself is actually really cool to build these kind of retro sounds with. So anyway, let's dive in and have a look. So with this example, I decided to make a kind of chiptune style track, of course, because that's the kind of style of the synth. So bear in mind, my music theory and songwriting skills leave much for improvement. So this is kind of just an outline of the kind of sounds and stuff that you're going to get here. I showed this off in the PX Memories video. One of the really cool things about Falcon is it allows you to kind of create these sort of instrument racks with a bunch of sounds in them, and then you can use a multitude of MIDI channels to kind of trigger all the sounds. So almost all the sounds in this sort of example track that I've created here are coming out of one instance of Falcon, except for these kind of like drum sounds. There are some of the drum sounds coming out of there, but they're these acoustic drums that are a little bit distorted to make them sound a little bit sort of chiptuney. Those are from Spitfire Labs. There's a preset there that's actually really nice, and it's free. So yeah, anyway, all the sounds except for the kind of acoustic style drums are coming out of one instance of Falcon. So yeah, that's particularly interesting for creating these kind of like more musical arrangements and stuff where you're kind of wanting layers of different sounds as opposed to sound designing all the different things. But I'm going to show you this demo track. I'm going to show you some of the presets that are built in here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the kind of sound design capabilities within this little synth. So anyway, this is the track that I've created. Cool, that's about it. So yeah, pretty simple stuff, but I think the challenge here was kind of getting more of the interest out of the musicality of stuff rather than playing with sound effects and that kind of thing. I think a lot of the time now with sort of more modern electronic music, we have the ability, I wouldn't say cheat, but we can kind of hide the lack of musicality with effects and modulations and all sorts of stuff like that. One of the interesting things about the chiptune genre is that it's very much based on the kind of musicality of things because, obviously a lot of the time they're kind of emulating the sound of these very simple 8-bit machines that don't have these complex processes and stuff on them. So anyway, I was, trying to go that route. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to render out a bunch of stems, and then we can look at individual sounds, some of the presets in the bank, and look at creating all these sort of sound design capabilities within the synth. So yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual synth. I figured I actually want to do a bit of sound design, or actually just show you guys around the synth a little bit before I go through some of the patches. I think that's going to be a little bit more interesting. So in the bank, you've got all the presets, and then below all these folders, we've got init mono and init stereo. So of course, they are pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, let's just dive into the layout of the interface, and I'll show you a couple of cool things about how this works. So there's basically like two sound sources. You've got a SID sound source and a chip sound source. One which is more kind of synthy and one which is more kind of noisy. And then you've got various kind of parameters that you can either apply to just the one, just the other, or both at the same time. And each of the layers are kind of made up with this kind of one, the other, or both kind of idea. So just to kind of wrap your head around that, firstly, you've got these kind of two layers. So it's a little bit confusing at first when you start kind of diving into the parameters and you're kind of only hearing a little bit, you know, say for example, you apply an LFO, but it's not pitch shifting the entire sound, just half of it or something. Just keep in mind that there are those two layers. One of the cool things about this system is the arpeggiator patterns that are built in, and a lot of these are kind of very common sort of patterns that you would hear in either chiptune or old kind of 8-bit game music. So it just makes things a little bit easier for creating these kind of weird arpeggiators as like sound effects or as little interests in your track. See how cool is that? So here we've only got the one engine powered up, so we can jump back to the main section and turn on the chip. You can actually choose here between the kind of different waveforms that you can punch in here. So they've got a bunch of traditional Game Boy and C64 waveforms, which is pretty cool. So actually, let's actually just turn off this one and just jump into the different waveforms that we can choose here on the SID. So let's check out what that arpeggiator sounds like on this side here. Let's choose power up, and I think it was 164. So we've got filters built in here. So like I said, you've got these either two split filters. So we could have like a different filter on each of these layers, or we could do one filter on both layers kind of thing. So they've also got the effects here that are built, that are basically the UVI effects. So if you know those, similarly to like the ones built into PX memories. So you've got spark, verb, and delay. Let's just put some of these on so the sound is not so in it. Let's maybe give this a 1/8 dotted. So let's see if we can put on a LFO onto these filters. So actually what we can do is we can split this up. So let's do just a filter on one of these layers, maybe two different filters. So let's go to, I think the more synthy sounding one can do with the filter, and then the chips, we can leave the filter off the chips. So we're just putting the filter onto the SID. And then let's jump over to the modulation page, and we can add a either a step modulation or an LFO to the patch. So let's go with an LFO. Let's choose a sine wave shape, and then we can go set this to SID only. So what we can also do, which is really interesting, is we can apply like a pitch shift to, say, for example, like the chips layer, and then we can do some really like psychedelic sounding stuff. Okay, so I did disable this. I think I turned down the volume. Yeah, let's turn this back up again. We can apply it to the SID layer as well for more craziness. Then we can jump back to the arpeggiator page and actually just start playing with these like resolutions here, so the time of the arpeggiator. So let's set both of these lower a little bit. Ooh, very nice sound. So I really like the way that it's kind of like it uses a lot of the kind of ideas from sort of the 8-bit synth and chip synth kind of thing, but it kind of expands the borders a little bit. So it allows you to get a lot more of a modern sound using these modulations and using these effects and stuff in a lot more of a creative way. So the cool thing about it is it's capable of creating these really retro sounds, but also, yeah, like I said, very modern sounds. You can really get kind of experimental with the sound design capabilities of it. You're not just limited to an LFO, you've got a step modulator as well, which can create kind of even more psychedelic filter variations. And, you know, if you turn the resonance up on the filter, you can get these really pingy sounds. So yeah, you're not limited to that kind of chiptune type of stuff. As you guys heard, it's capable of very psychedelic effects as well, very modern stuff. So I quickly want to go through a couple of my favorite presets that are built in here, and then we are going to call it a day. Awesome, that's about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. A big thanks to UVI for sending me this expansion pack for the purpose of this video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. See you guys next time. Cheers.